Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Scully,
Yes?
marry me.
I love you and I like you.
I love you and I like you.
I love that woman. I love her more than sharks love blood.
I love you.
You don't.
My dad joined Starfleet because he believed in it. I joined on a dare.
You joined to see if you could live up to him. You spent all this time trying to be your father. And now you're wondering just what it means to be you.
It isn't uncommon, you know. It's easy to get lost. In the vastness of space, there's only yourself, your ship, your crew.
You really want to head back out there, huh?
What the hell is this?
They're boarding us.
Abandoned ship.
My God.
I know why you're here. Why we are all here.
Our captain will come for us. Mercy will be the last thing on his mind.
I am counting on it.
Fear of death is illogical.
Fear of death is what keeps us alive.
Everyone who goes there, he kills.
That's our friends out there. We can't just leave them behind.
Unity is not your strength. It is your weakness.
I think you're underestimating humanity.
Hold on to something! Fire at will! Do it! Do it!
Hello, I'm Tristan Riddell.
And I'm the girl.
And you're listening to Nerd Nuptial. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 16, and we are so utterly excited to give you yet another episode. And we just want to thank you for everything that you do. We start the show the same way for a reason, because you guys are so incredibly supportive of this venture and our little network. And we want to thank you for supporting the Nerd Party Network and just for talking about us and mentioning us to your friends and everything in that way. And one way that you can really support us is by writing us an iTunes review. And we have 2 new reviews this week, girl.
Yay!
And one is in the U.S. store from Somebody But Not Me. And we want to thank you very much. You wrote some very kind words. It was very, very complimentary. And we thank you for taking the time and writing it down. And another person wrote us a review and actually sent me a snapshot of it, which I'm very appreciative of, because it's he did it outside of the U.S. iTunes store. He's from Australia, and his username is Damien JH. He's a big supporter of the show, big supporter of the network. I'm friends with him on Twitter, and he's had some. I think he gave us our first 5-star review in the Australia store.
Nice.
So, if any other Aussies are listening, we love you guys, and if you could take some time and give us a review and populate that store up a little bit more, we would be much appreciative. And because they gave us 5-star reviews, we're mentioning them on the podcast, and we thank you guys so much. And I am excited about this week's topic because I honestly didn't think that I'd ever get to talk about this topic when we started this show.
Why do you think we're talking about it now?
I coerced you.
Okay.
I think is the
you
question.
probably guilted me.
I guilted you into it because this week we're talking about Star Trek. That's right, Star Trek.
Yes.
Which
the JJ verse.
The JJ verse, yes. Because if you guys know anything about me or have listened to any of my previous shows or previous work, you know that I'm obsessed with Star Trek. We've talked about it on the show just a little bit. Specifically last week, where we talked about how you're not a fan.
Yeah, I came
Star
out of
Trek.
the closet as a non-supporter of Star Trek.
You came out of the closet that is the final frontier.
That's right. That's right.
And that's okay, because you only got judged just a little bit online.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
All right.
Although we did mention at the end of the show that we were going to watch some Deep Space Nine.
We did.
And we did. We watched season 4, episode 1, the double episode, The Way of the Warrior. And more than a few people emailed me and tweeted me and said, what did the girl think of Deep Space Nine?
It was okay.
It was okay?
Yeah.
You were lying, because I had to wake you up 6 times. I was very frustrated with you.
I know. You almost like shut it off.
I did shut it off.
Oh, you did?
And then you pleaded with me to turn it back on. You're like,
I
I'm
felt
not
a terrible
sleeping.
person.
I'm just snoring. I'm not sleeping.
Stop! You're evil. That's so mean. No, I don't know. I don't know why I don't like Star Trek.
I think people are going to be writing in saying,
I know.
how on earth, because Way of the Warrior is a great place to start in Deep Space Nine. Like, that's what I tell people who are saying, like, oh, I tried the first episode, I don't really like it. I tell them, start with season 4. That's the introduction of Worf.
But it didn't work on your wife.
It totally did not work on you. And that was a really cool episode, because that final battle between the Klingons.
No, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just the rest of it, you just didn't like.
I was just a little bored.
See,
Clearly, if I fell asleep.
It just kills me.
I know.
It just absolutely kills me.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, we're not talking about Deep Space Nine today.
No, we're not.
Now, as many of you know, and if you don't know, what rock are you living under? The new trailer for Star Trek Beyond dropped just a couple of days ago from this recording. We're recording this on Sunday. It dropped on Friday. There was a fan event and in Los Angeles, which a lot of my friends went to.
Cool.
Which I saw pictures of, and they named a street in the Paramount lot after Leonard Nimoy.
Very cool.
A lot of fun. Now, you've seen this trailer.
Yes.
And you've seen the first trailer. What do you think of this trailer?
I thought it looked fun. I thought it looked different, and I think that they're going to try to redeem themselves in some ways from Into Darkness, because I know there was a negative fan reaction to that movie. Mm-hmm. I think I actually came out of theater kind of positive from Into Darkness, but apparently I was the only one.
No, there was I wouldn't say that you were the only one.
I know, but
there was a lot of people who liked it.
Yeah.
But
but I think it looks interesting. I like the concept of the new trailer, where they're kind of left without their ship.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Stranded.
that looks interesting. You geeked out really hard.
Yes, I did. Oh my gosh, yeah. There was
You were like jumping up and down.
I literally jumped out of bed, because we watched it in bed, because that's where we watch TV. I jumped out of bed at the sight of the NX ship from Enterprise. Now, this is I'm losing nerd cred here. I can't remember. Like, we actually know the name of the ship, like, because we saw it on a mission patch of Spock's outfit, and I cannot remember the name of the ship. I think it starts with a G or something like that. But everyone thought that it would be really cool if it was an NX ship, and we saw some quick pictures of the bridge. We're like, okay, this is like Spock's wearing an old jumpsuit. This is clearly something from the past. It's an old down ship. Wouldn't that be cool if it was something from the Enterprise era? And this trailer confirmed it. Now, we don't know for sure if it's a Warp 5 vessel, like the same kind that Archer was captaining, but it is definitely the same shape. So, like, this could be the next generation of the first Warp 5 ship, and just a little bit more advanced, or just a little bit different. And there's no mistaking it. Like, they didn't have any close-ups on it, or like front view or side view, but they had a rear view. It is no mistake. That is an NX or an NX variant. And I lost my little geek mind.
Yes, you did. You really, really did. I was like, what's happening? What am I supposed to be excited about?
You were so confused, because I just threw up the remote and got out. And I was just like, what?
Yeah, whenever you do that, I couldn't tell whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. And I was like, explain yourself. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel.
Like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm excited for you.
Exactly.
That's essentially what happened. Yeah, it's yeah, I think it's great. I really am excited because here's the thing is that I was, I was one of the people who walked out of Star Trek Into Darkness going, what was that? Oh man, why did that happen? And a lot of people that I know just who were like me, who liked Star Trek 09, but didn't like Star Trek Into Darkness, were so turned off from Star Trek Into Darkness, felt so betrayed by that movie that they're just like, you know what? I'm not interested in a third one. I'm super excited about Star Trek as in the next TV show coming out next year, but I'm not interested in this movie. And it's kind of hard to blame them. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, especially if you feel like you've been betrayed as a fan. And let's be honest, like, Star Trek fans are extremely dedicated. And so if you mess something up or if you kind of betray the franchise, like how, all the fans felt, then it's hard to redeem yourself. So I can definitely see how that, I think that's even why they, it looks like they're going in a different direction for that very purpose, maybe to get back some of those fans.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars might be the best thing that's ever happened to the Star Trek franchise again. Because what happened in the 70s because we all know that Star Trek was first in the 60s, got canceled, but then Star Wars came out in 1977, and then all of a sudden it was bankable to have a high-level, high-action, sci-fi movie, and then that's how we got Star Trek the Motion Picture, was because Star Wars was so successful.
Exactly.
And flash forward to 2016, and JJ, directs the first two Star Trek films of the reboot, and then he's like, "Oh, sweet, these were my audition pieces for Star Wars."
Right.
And then he gets the gig, and he's like, "Okay, well, I can't direct the third one then because I'm busy with The Force Awakens." And then boom, comes in Justin Lin.
Yeah. And I know that you were hesitant at first about Justin Lin directing just because, Fast and Furious are not really our type of movies.
No.
At all. Most of our loved ones love those movies, but we are not big fans of those movies.
No, John Mills, co-host on Aggressive Negotiations on the Nerd Party Network, he's crossed over to the dark side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he investigated the Fast and Furious franchise because of Justin Lin.
Oh, really?
And now he's a huge fan.
That's so funny.
And I judge him every day for it.
That's so funny.
Oh, but yeah, it's like, I'll be the first to admit that when Justin Lin's name was mentioned, I was just like, "Ooh, I don't know, guys. Come on. Let's get somebody who's focused on character, not just car chases." And people are trying to tell me that no, there was a lot of character work in his Fast and Furious films. And I wasn't buying it. I was like, okay, I'll wait and see. I was like, I don't know this guy. I haven't seen his movie, so I can't judge him. But it was a knee-jerk reaction. And then the more I read about this guy, I think it was was it Vanity Fair or I don't know, Vulture or something like that released an article with a one-on-one with Justin Lin and just asked him about, when he accepted the job and how he was going through it. And he was saying all the right things. He was talking about emphasizing character. He was talking about destroying the Enterprise for a good reason. He said, he's like, I wanted to strip all of the Starfleet comforts from our main characters, break them down, and build them back up. And it made sense the way he described it. And I started getting more and more excited about it. And then hearing that he was raised as a Star Trek fan, like he would watch the reruns with his dad when his dad got home from like a 12-hour work day. And that's the thing is that JJ said from the get-go, not a Star Trek fan, never got it.
Yeah, and I think that that's just such a mistake to have someone who's not a fan, go and direct one, because you have to be a Star Trek fan. I feel like kind of like how you have to be a Star Wars fan to direct one of those films because it's so established, wouldn't you say?
I think.
I mean, I guess you can argue that maybe fresh eyes would also be a positive thing in a different, in the franchise, especially if you're trying to reboot it. But at the same time, Star Trek fans are so dedicated, just like, Star Wars fans are so dedicated that it feels like you need to at least have some basis to honor the fans.
I think that was the thing, is that it was the fresh eyes argument. You know, I think JJ was ultimately good for the franchise. I do. I will say that. I think JJ starting the JJ verse and, you know, like reinvigorating the franchise, I think was a very positive thing. I love Star Trek '09. And I think it benefited from his fresh eyes, where he said, it's like, okay, here's these great characters, here's this great universe, let me tell a new story. And that's what he did. And it was great. But then once you establish this new universe by borrowing old stuff, and then he moved on to the second film, I think that's where it really showed that he was not a Star Trek fan. I think that's where it started to gleam, because where it was a benefit in the first one became his detriment in the second one. And then now that we've established this new universe and see where it can go positively and where it can go negatively, I'm glad to see we're going to have a Star Trek fan, someone who respects the history.
Right.
Bring it back.
What would you say is like the biggest detriment that you would say for the second one that you observed?
I think the biggest detriment, and actually, like, let's just go ahead and preface this real quick, is that after we saw the trailer and we both got so jazzed, we're like, oh, let's rewatch these movies.
Yeah, so we just did.
So we just did. Just now, we did a double bill. We watched Star Trek '09, and then we watched Star Trek Into Darkness, and now we're recording this podcast because what we want to do is we wanted to talk about the franchise as a whole. You know, the new trailer, the two movies, where it's going in you know, from present to future. And to answer your question, girl, I think some of the biggest detriments came about in Star Trek Into Darkness. I feel like Star Trek '09 didn't really have too many detriments. And this is just one man's opinion.
Sure.
Because I like the JJ verse. I do. I was unhappy with Into Darkness, but I like the universe. I like the style. And with Star Trek Into Darkness, I think the disregard of Star Trek history and Star Trek technology was a big detriment. I'm talking the Khan Superblood stuff and the transporter stuff. And that may sound small from an outsider's perspective. That may sound like nitpicking, but within the Star Trek universe, that's actually kind of a big deal, because what they did was, in Star Trek Into Darkness, they did two major things. They made death obsolete, and they made starships obsolete. Why would you need a starship if you can beam across the galaxy?
Right.
Because
what's the point?
You know, we've established that it takes days and days to get from Federation space to the Klingon homeworld, going warp 5 or whatever. And in this movie, you are going, you know, thousands, millions, billions, whatever, light years away. Not billions, but you're going hundreds and thousands of light years away instantly. And so why would you need a starship to explore strange new worlds when you can just beam?
Right.
And with the Superblood thing, you know, they brought Kirk back to life just injecting him with blood. So they have 72 people. You know, they could farm those people, and then whenever a main character dies, they're just like, oh, good thing I saved some Superblood.
Right.
And then boom, it's a plot device. And so it's just, I feel like somebody asked Justin Lin, you know, how are you going to address these things? How are you going to address immortality and no longer the need for for spaceships? And he very gently and very politically sidestepped the question, but inferred that they're going to completely ignore
what happened
in Star Trek Into Darkness. And I'm okay with that. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it because it does not make sense. Even like in the movie, we just watched it, where he has to get Khan's blood. Well, he just used the chamber to house Kirk in, and he got rid of the other guys, like put the other guy in a coma. But he could have used the other guy's blood to revive Kirk if he was smart enough to use it. Yeah. I don't know. It was just very flawed in its design when it comes to the story structure. When it comes to that, yeah.
Not to mention the waste of female characters.
Oh my gosh.
The absolute betrayal of of this feminist message, this anti-feminist message in Star Trek Into Darkness, because I feel like we started so well in the first Star Trek where everyone was treated equally, where if you saw Gala and Uhura in their underwear, right next to him you saw Kirk in his underwear. You know, like you had this sexy scene, you know, like it was...
Yeah, I hate that scene.
I know, like...
I was like, every single time we see that scene, I'm like, yeah, roommates don't just like hang out together.
Lay seductively on the bed.
Exactly, like, come on.
Every single time we watch that.
Every time.
You
I'm
cannot
like,
keep your mouth
my
shut during
gosh,
that scene.
I can't stand it. Yeah, but at least Uhura had some personality. You know, she's
Right.
like, you're going to put me on the Enterprise. I'm going to put you in the Enterprise. You know, she
because
had
I
some...
deserve to be on the
Right,
Enterprise.
she had some guts. You knew that she was really good at what she did.
She gave Kirk sass.
Yeah, exactly. Like she had some personality. Whereas in Into Darkness, we start off and she's arguing with like a stupid not a stupid argument, but an argument with Spock,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the typical like relationship jibber jabber that you see.
She became the nagging girlfriend.
Yeah, and it was terrible. It was terrible.
And that's all she had to do.
Right.
That's all she had to do for the entire film, except for like a 30-second scene where she spoke Klingon.
Right. And then she got on the ship and helped Spock by like shooting Khan.
Yeah.
But it was so brief. It was so brief.
Yeah,
she's completely wasted.
She was worthless. They injected her in there just so that they could say that they gave her something to do.
And I don't know.
And they just neutered that character.
They did. And it was a strong character, and then it changed. And then with the whole Marcus, yeah. She's just in there just to be in her underwear. I mean, that scene had absolutely no purpose.
There was no
reason.
No reason. The only reason that was there is so that they could put that shot in the trailer.
Exactly.
That is the sole reason that character was created.
Yep.
And the sole reason why that shot was created. And it is just so sad because Carol Marcus is a great character. They have in the Prime universe, they have a child together. Kirk and Marcus have a child together, and she's an independent scientist. She changes the universe with her creation of the Genesis device. And you know, she shows no love for, you know, like for Starfleet misusing technology for weapons, and then she comes on in Star Trek Into Darkness as a weapons specialist.
Completely betraying the character.
Oh, it was just so horrible, and also like the only Asian women that we see in the film are used in a menage a trois, and like again,
or a flirtatious way at the bar, it's just
reinforcing the exotic Asian stereotype that's only used as a sex object. It just super bothers me, and not to mention in Star Trek 09 and Star Trek Into Darkness, the women have no visible rank on their uniforms because they have no sleeves. There's no rank on their shoulders, not on their waist, on their skirt, nowhere. And how do you screw that up?
Right.
How do you screw that up?
I was going to say.
And so thankfully in Star Trek and Star Trek Beyond, they have sleeves, they have rank.
That's good, because that's pretty pathetic if you think about it. Like, they're equals, you know, in this scenario, of course. But if you're not showing their rank, then it's like they don't, you know, they're not as significant.
Yeah, they're secondary.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're a female, you know, officer. We don't need to display your rank.
Apparently, you don't need sleeves.
Yeah, it's very subtle. Like, I'm sure it was not intentional, but it doesn't matter because it still happened.
Right.
And whether it was subconscious or conscious, it still happened. It's still there. So I'm happy to see that rectified.
Absolutely.
Because in the 60s show, they had sleeves. You know, it's not hard, folks.
Right. I know that you also were really bothered in Into Darkness about the very beginning of the movie. They're on this planet with a volcano, and they, you know, they basically interrupt this culture, and they expose themselves. And, you know, yes, they address it, but they don't really, they kind of ignore it later on.
There's no lasting effects.
Right.
That's the thing, is that there's no lasting repercussions. That's what made me angry.
Right.
Is that when they betrayed the Prime Directive, when they broke the Prime Directive, I was excited at first because I was like, wow, this is a big deal. I can't believe they just did that. And then Pike is literally screaming at Kirk, like Spock got him in trouble, and they took away the Enterprise from him, and
so there were consequences. Yeah, absolutely.
There was consequences, and then that lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah,
literally 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then he had the ship
had
again.
His ship back. No consequences.
No,
none, zero.
No,
he completely altered the future of an entire race because of his inappropriate actions. This is Star Trek. This is supposed to show us morality tales saying your actions have direct consequences, not just the people in your lives, but the people all around you. And because you're going from planet to planet, you are essentially playing God when you're interacting with an underdeveloped species or a less developed species than your own.
Right.
And this is the beauty of Star Trek. And then they addressed it, but then cut its legs off at the first opportunity.
Yeah, and he totally just said, like, it doesn't really, basically he said it, like, it doesn't matter, it'll be fine.
Yeah, whatever, whatever.
Yeah, and it's just, if you're explorers, then of course that's going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost felt like it was just like a secondary thing.
We need to watch an episode of TNG called Who Watches the Watchers, which deals with this topic in a fantastic way, a phenomenal way, where they figure out who, like, this underdeveloped species, I shouldn't say underdeveloped, this less developed species figures, like, Starfleet is watching them develop. And they're doing
more primitive species.
Primitive, yeah. They're doing it secretly, but somehow they get exposed. They find out who Picard is. They start worshiping Picard as a god.
Oh, wow.
And Picard's like, what do we do? Like, we have possibly curtailed the growth of this, of this civilization by damning them to more superstition and fear. And it was just a great morality tale. It was just like there's no black and white, like, what do we do? There was no right answer. And with this one, they used it as a trope and then just moved on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just like, this is the beginning of the movie and moving on.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like after 09, we should have more original stories.
Yes.
Because we've established these characters. And I really like how 09 was established those characters, I think, in a creative way. And yet, I didn't mind the alternate timeline just because I felt like the purpose of it was to reboot this franchise, like, make it their own. And I think that they did a good job of that, establishing these characters. But with any first movie, once you've established your characters, then you can kind of basically play with them and do whatever you want with them.
Right.
But because of I'm not as familiar, obviously, with all the different Star Trek movies and TV shows as you are. But from what you've told me and what, I've researched myself, the whole Khan and, the radioactive thing, that's all been done before. Why do we need to go back to the storyline when we can create new storylines?
Yeah, that's why I was so shocked that JJ basically just remade A New Hope with The Force Awakens, because
right.
He got so much flack for stealing so much from Wrath of Khan for Into Darkness.
Yeah.
And he just did it again. Now, granted, he did it better.
Right, but at the same time, it's like, why are we recycling these ideas? And sometimes those ideas should not be recycled, especially if you have such an iconic character like Khan, and it's so, just like I said, iconic that this is who Khan is, and it's in the zeitgeist. And when you then introduce a new character and you call him something else, secretly, yeah, I was gonna say, and then. But basically you have the same storyline, but probably not told as well, definitely not told as well, then it just doesn't service your fan base, and that's who you're doing it for.
And then that's the thing, is that, like, that's the odd double-edged sword, is that they did it to please the fan base by giving us material that we've seen before, but they didn't do it justice, and so they just spat on the material that we all know and love. And so, like, your average fan is indifferent. like you were walking out of it. Like you didn't know about Khan, you didn't know about this, and so you're just like, oh, okay, this is an interesting story. And so you like the story a whole lot more than I did walking out of Star Trek Into Darkness. After walking out of that, I was just like, oh man, I don't feel like I watched a Star Trek film.
Yeah.
This was weird. I just had this bad taste in my mouth, and you're like, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, well,
but watching it again, do you feel the same way?
I did not. I saw a lot of flaws. I think that when I don't know why I liked it more coming out of the theater, but watching it again, there's just a lot of flaws in the storyline. It doesn't flow nearly as well as 09. 09 is fast paced. It's, the structure's really good. Whereas Into Darkness, it's all over the place. It really is. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I feel like as soon as I watched Into Darkness again, because here's the thing is that when I saw 09, Star Trek 09, I think maybe 4 or 5 times in the theater. Mm-hmm. And that's the most I've ever seen a movie in the theater before and since. That's the movie that I've seen the most in the theater. And then when Star Trek Into Darkness came out, saw it once.
Yeah.
Then waited for DVD.
Yeah.
And once I watched it on DVD, I enjoyed it more than the first time because my disappointments would have already been made.
Sure. Now you're just kind of watching it just to get more Star Trek. And,
exactly.
Right.
That is why I can enjoy it, is because I love these characters.
Right.
And I love this universe, and so I just want to be in it as much as I can, even if the movie was subpar.
Yeah. I kind of, it reminds me a little bit of, I feel like you can bring a character that's already been established back if you do it in the right way. Like I was remembering our reaction when we watched the newest James Bond movie.
Mm-hmm. Blofeld.
The Blofeld reference, not reference, he was Blofeld. That made us excited, and we were like, oh, that's so cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, we weren't 100% on some of the backstory of like the brother thing.
Right.
Because that was a little lame. But just seeing him as Blofeld, we were like, all right, cool reveal.
It got you excited for the future.
It did. But when Khan was revealed, it was like we saw it coming. And also, it was just so, I guess, the antithesis of what Khan is supposed to be. That yes. You're just like, really? This is Khan?
Seriously, like Khan is supposed to be this robust, sexy person of color who he ruled an empire, and with his charisma. And Benedict Cumberbatch just does not have that je ne sais quoi. And don't get me wrong, please do not jump down my throat, Cumberbatch fans, but because I like Cumberbatch a lot. I love that actor. He's great. And I think he does have charisma, but it's a very different type of charisma. I mean, like he's a pasty English fellow, and so he's
attractive.
He's an attractive, pasty English fellow, and that's just not who Khan is. And I'm like, even if you took race out of the equation, he's not the embodiment of Khan
personality. Even I would say,
like now Benicio del Toro, I was supposed to be Khan.
Oh, really?
That would have been an amazing choice.
He definitely has that.
He has that swagger,
suave.
Yeah, he's suave. He can puff up his chest,
right?
And you would believe that he could rule an empire with his charisma.
Mm-hmm.
And it fell through. Obviously the talks fell through, and then they go in the complete opposite direction.
Yeah, so it's like, well, we can't get him, so let's just go for the opposite.
So crazy. And on To the Journey, we interviewed Garrett Wang, who played Harry Kim in Star Trek Voyager, and he was talking about Into Darkness and about how he would have loved to have seen Naveen Andrews from Lost as Khan. And that blew my mind. That would have been a perfect casting choice.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. That would have been really cool.
It made me angry all over again. But we're talking a lot about the negatives of the JJ verse. But let's talk about the positives here. Let's start at the beginning. So Star Trek 09. It's 2008. It's 2007. Whenever we got news that there's going to be a new Star Trek film, they're releasing the trailers. They all look awesome and great, and it's everybody's invigorated because we haven't had a Star Trek movie for a couple of years. Enterprise has been off the air for a couple of years, and so there was this big void of Star Trek. For the first time in our lives, there was a void of Star Trek, and then boom, they said, we're going to reboot the franchise, and it's going to be awesome. from a non-fan perspective, what did that mean to you? Were you intrigued? Were you interested? Did it matter to you?
I think I was intrigued. I think that, I had not seen a lot of Star Trek other than Next Gen. My mom liked watching Next Gen, so I had seen some of that, and I definitely, like I've said before, like that one the best from what I've seen. I think I was like, okay, cool. Let's, see these characters, because I had not seen a lot of the original series.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting to me to see those characters and kind of learn more about those characters, because I wasn't really exposed to the original series.
Okay, all right. For me, I was jazzed. When I saw when I heard that they were making the announcement, they had an announcement trailer where they were literally building the Enterprise, and it said under construction for 2009. And I was just so jazzed. I mean, these trailers just got me so utterly excited to see these characters and, this era on the big screen again, because we hadn't seen it on the big screen since the 90s, and in such a very advanced technological CGI way. I was like, sweet, and like my first reaction was, oh man, this is going to get a new generation of Star Trek fans. This is going to get the next generation, if you please forgive me, of Star Trek fans. And they're going to find these movies, whether they like them or not, it might actually get them interested in previous Star Trek. And I just, this was needed very bad. And it just whether you liked it or not, it got people talking about Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
If you liked it, you talked about how what you liked about it and how similar it was to the show that we all fell in love with. And if you didn't like it, it made you talk about the shows that we all fell in love with and why they were different. And so it brought new blood and new ideas.
Absolutely.
And so I was thoroughly excited, and I was blown away when I saw it. I was, especially that opening scene. One of my favorite opening scenes of any movie is in Star Trek 09.
As a tearjerker, right?
That is a hook. That is a hell of a hook.
It is. I think it's such a good scene. I mean, I think that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
I think so too. Out of both movies, that's my favorite part. And
it's like the beginning of Up.
Oh man,
they have me like right there. I'm like, okay, anything you do from here on, you've made me cry in the first 5 minutes of movie, so I'm good.
That's the thing, is that that is a geniusly crafted opening.
Yeah,
it should be studied. It should be examined. It should be heralded.
You were invested in those characters from the get-go,
and you barely even knew them,
right?
But you cared about Captain Rabot. You cared about George Kirk. You cared about Winona Kirk. You cared about the crew, and you were like, what is going on? Why is this craziness happening? And
this reminds me of Man of Steel, how I really loved the beginning on Krypton.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I'm always like, oh, this is awesome. This is going to be such a great movie.
You were disappointed.
Oh, yeah. Well, not in 09, though. I like
Not in 09.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but you like 09 a whole lot more than you like Man of Steel.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that the music, the feeling, the editing, the special effects,
the acting,
was spot on. You're just like as soon as the music picks up and it starts to dim, and then we hear dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah.
Dun 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 dun, and then Star Trek the logo comes on and turns. You're just like
exciting.
Oh, your just heart starts racing. It was perfect.
Yeah,
and I mean that. It was a perfect opening to a brand new franchise.
Absolutely.
And a brand new universe. And that is the event that changed everything. That is the event that allowed them to have this alternate universe.
Right.
And what better way to open up?
I was going to say, which was done really well.
It was done great. And speaking of music, it's funny, rewatching this and then getting those key emotional moments, like the introspective moments or the death moments or the sad moments and everything like that. It feels like you're watching an episode of Lost because of the music.
I was going to say, yeah, I think even while you're watching, you're like, oh, I can picture them on the beach right now, having a heartfelt moment.
or they're burying Anna Lucia or something, like it's just that's the music that's going on.
Yeah, it's true.
And obviously, because we all know that Michael Giacchino is the composer, who is also the composer of Up.
Oh, you're right. It's all connected.
It's all connected. He's the real puppet master pulling the strings.
That's right. Maybe I need to reevaluate his music. Might need to score my life.
And also, speaking of which, I mean, again, to stay on music, the music introduced in Star Trek 09, I think is some of the best music to come from Star Trek. And that's a bit like, I'm sure that a lot of people are booing in their cars or at their iPods right now. But I hopefully agree that, because I think some of the best stuff that came out of Giacchino was in Star Trek 09, and that's some of the best Star Trek music out there. I mean, like you have the likes of James Horner, like doing Star Trek and The Wrath of Khan, and just you have such, Star Trek is known for its music. It's iconic. It's great. Ron Jones in Next Generation. You just like have all these great names, and Giacchino added to that and expanded and did something wildly different, but kept the big orchestral feel. It just blows me away. It's one of my favorite Star Trek soundtracks to listen to, especially the track "Enterprising Young Men." And it's when they first see the Enterprise in space, when Bones and Kirk first see the Enterprise in space dock.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
And we can all hear it in our heads right now.
I like the music behind when Spock and Spock meet.
Oh yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I don't even know what kind of instrument that is, but it's very
I really like that.
Otherworldly. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty great, because it was so great in 09. It kind of made me feel like Giacchino got lazy in Into Darkness, where he just recycled a lot of the same music and a lot of the same themes.
I could see a little bit of that. Definitely the music. I did not notice the music as much in Into Darkness as I did in 09.
Very true. Yeah, like we had that opening piano piece, like with the sick girl and everything like that. That was really nice, but that's really all that I can remember.
Yeah, it's true. I can't remember much else.
I heard that he's going to be scoring Star Trek Beyond as well, so I think that'll continue to give us some continuity in the future and everything like that. What are some other things that you liked about Star Trek 09?
I really like the personality of all the characters. I think that it's fun to see them kind of play off of each other. I also think that they did a really good job of all the backstories, especially, of Spock and Kirk. I think they showed just enough of them as kids, and then they were like, okay, now they're together. Now we're going to show that dynamic of them eventually becoming friends. So I thought that was done really well. Really well. Yeah, it's
funny that you mentioned that as a non-fan, that you really like the characters, because these characters have existed for 50 years.
I know.
And there's a reason why they're so great. There's a reason why they're so well developed and so fun to play with, is because they've been around since the 60s.
It's true.
And we've seen these characters fleshed out for decades.
They have a lot of material to go on. Yeah, that's for sure.
We've seen them in 6 movies, some of them in 7. And we saw them in 3 seasons of television, and guest appearances all throughout, and novels and comic books and short stories, and we have been in love with these characters for literally half a century.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That is so great.
Yeah,
and it invigorates me that they're continuing on.
Yeah, and I think the way that they play the characters, they're a new interpretation, but they are still true to the characters that everyone knows and loves. I love Bones in the first movie, but then Into Darkness, I was bringing up to you, I was like, every single line he says the exact same way. He says it with the same urgency, no matter what the situation is. He says it in the exact same way.
The same gruff urgency.
It could be like a drinking game.
Are you out of your corn-fed mind?
Exactly. Every single time he has a line.
Yeah, it's like when I imagine myself alone on a deserted island with a beautiful woman, I didn't think there would be a missile involved.
What are you doing?
You know, it's just like, yeah,
all angry and
just
like
all super angry all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely had more variety in his line delivery in 09.
Did.
But the fans, like, even if you hated both of these movies, all the fans loved Carl Urban as Bones.
Oh yeah, no, I do too. I think he's great as that character. It made me laugh watching Into Darkness again because I was just like, there's not a lot of variation there.
I feel like already in the Star Trek Beyond trailer, in the second trailer, we've seen Bones give a variety of lines and given in a variety of different feels, and so I think it'll be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more depth to his character.
I hope so.
And a lot more. What am I looking for? Breadth in his character,
Well, and like, I mean, Simon Pegg as Scotty is just an amazing choice, and you can't beat that. Like, he just steals the show in so many ways.
Simon Pegg as Scotty is really Simon Pegg's version of
Well,
Scotty.
yeah,
like
I know,
it is,
but I'm okay
Simon
with
Pegg
it.
playing Scotty, playing Simon
Right,
Pegg.
exactly. But I like it.
I know, I love it too. Don't get me wrong.
And I think Chekhov's really cute. He's such
Chekhov's adorable, yeah.
He's so cute.
And another character that I think was kind of wasted. Like, they didn't know what to do with Chekhov.
Not in the second one. Whereas in the first one, he's so like, I mean,
it was very distinguished.
Yeah,
like
it was.
You knew who he was.
Exactly.
And he had some great moments. And in Star Trek Into Darkness, you can't really name any moments except for when he deadlifts over 400 pounds of man. And he's like this skinny 18-year-old, weighs $130 soaking wet.
Yeah, we were both like, again, we were like, wow, so he's just able to do that? Okay, cool.
Yeah, like when we're watching Batman Begins and Bruce Wayne is holding Liam Neeson on the cliff's edge and he curls 6'7" or however 6'4" Liam Neeson, you're just like, wow, that's amazing. But it's in the realm of possibilities.
Well, at least he's been training for it, At least he's, works out and he fights crime.
That's what I'm saying.
Whereas Chekhov is like,
he's
not
this
so much.
literal computer geek.
Exactly. Adorable.
Who loves physics.
No.
Who can just deadlift 400 pounds.
That's right.
But, speaking of which, that's one thing about this universe that I think is kind of the way that sci-fi is going. And so I expected it, and I was just like, okay, it's fine, whatever. But all these characters were souped up. Like, if you watch the original series, all of these characters were great at what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They were great at what they did. They were the best of the best, and that's why they were on the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, everybody's like, Sulu is not just great at fencing. He is, he's flipping around, he's doing martial arts, and, he's a badass fighter. And Kirk is not only just a great leader, he's a super genius, his test scores are off the charts. And then, you have Chekhov, who's not just, quirky and fun, in the original series, but now he was drafted, not drafted, but he was...
he's 17.
He's 17, he was recruited. If you read the novelization, he was so smart. He was so crazy genius that he bypassed the academy and they recruited him into Starfleet. And that's why he's so young and in full uniform on the ship. And Uhura, in the original series, Uhura didn't speak any other language that we knew of, besides Swahili and in English. She did not speak Klingon. It was established that she did not speak Klingon, and in this one, she speaks every single language ever made.
Right. She might be a little rusty, but
a little rusty, but yeah. No, and that's the thing, is that everybody's amped up, souped up, because in this franchise, the
Don't
technology
you think that's
is souped
just the nature of movies, though?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, because you're establishing these people in such a short amount of time, as opposed to a series where you've got time to establish them? And I think it's also probably a product of the time.
Very much so.
The 60s, we didn't necessarily need all the basically action heroes practically on our...
Yeah, we're in the superhero age.
Right,
yeah.
right. So, and I think there's something charming about, just a bunch of scientists being on this ship and
that sounds like a great show idea.
Right? I know. Imagine that. I don't know why I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating and not at all boring.
You want to go? Bring it.
Anyway.
So yeah, I mean, that idea of just, there's just some scientists and they're exploring, the universe and they're dealing with the problems that come up. That's not enough anymore. We have to have them be the top of their class. So they have to be super geniuses. They have to be super fighters. They all have to fight, Whereas, I mean, I'm sorry, but there's no reason that Chekhov would need to fight. There's no reason necessarily that Sulu would have to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that he, yes, he's great at fenting, but there's just not every single person on that ship has to be a great fighter.
Right.
They can be really good at what they do, and then they don't have to be good at all the rest.
Right. Yeah. Let the fighters be good at the fighting.
Right.
And let the super geniuses be the super.
Right.
Yeah. It's just I absolutely get it, and you're right. And that's the thing is, I think that's another reason why I'm so excited about Star Trek Beyond is because of what Justin Lin said, is that they're stripping it down to the core elements of the character. They're stripping away the technology and the Starfleet comforts and everything like that. And that's great to see, because that way we see these individuals and we get to see their character
more
emotions and their development, and not just what superpowers they have, but how they react when the chips are down.
Right.
And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and I also think that the that's a new alien species that we are seeing, right?
Yes, it is.
It's anything that's been established before.
Totally new locations that
That's
we've never
cool.
seen before. New characters, new bad guy.
See, that's kind of what I meant was, once you establish your characters, then you can have fun. And why not? You mean, Star Trek, you have so much information that you can go with, or, your imagination basically is the limit. You can go as far as you want, and you can make anything you want as far as aliens are concerned. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you try to come up with a new alien species that people would be like, oh yeah, that species, Why wouldn't you?
It's a big universe.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
lots of different types of people and races, and that's what Star Trek is all about, is that it's the final frontier. It's the unknown. It's the it's the new civilizations, and we need to explore that. We need to move on. And that's what the fans have been screaming for. But in this day and age, Star Trek fans just complain, that's what they do, is they scream for something that they want, and like a new television show. And then they're like, well, it's not exactly what I wanted, so I'm going to complain. Like, it's on a streaming service and not Netflix. I don't want to pay for it. And they say like, okay, well, we want a new movie, but we've established that we have to be in the JJ verse. That's fine. But if we do get a new movie, let's get new stories. And so they deliver a movie with new stories, and people are like, man, no, it's too different. It's just, they say
you
that
can't,
you just can't win everybody. You can't win them over. And that's the thing, is that it's the line between fan and critic is really blurred right now.
Yeah, and I think that everyone's a critic, and I think that's part of the problem sometimes, is that, and I think something else that people have to realize is that for people who are not Star Trek fans, they also are trying to reach them. So that's also something they have to achieve. So sometimes, and we've talked about this before on our show even, that if you have all of those elements that people want, then it probably wouldn't be a good movie or a good show.
Right.
So it's just hard to please everyone. But it also is, I'm sure, disheartening as a fan to see sometimes the negativity that surrounds just trailers, just because
trailers, posters,
right? You just want your Star Trek, and you just want it to be good.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that like I was just as critical as anybody else of Star Trek Into Darkness.
Of course.
But I see Star Trek as hope. I see Star Trek as there's always something on the horizon. That's the best type of Star Trek, is the Star Trek that hasn't happened yet. It's that new show that's coming out next year. That's the best Star Trek's ever going to be, because it hasn't happened yet.
Right, sure.
And this Star Trek Beyond is going to be the best Star Trek movie ever made, because it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
We need to focus on that hope. We need to regain that sense of wonder. And everybody's putting it on the franchise to deliver that. But we need to meet them halfway.
Yeah.
We need to
support it.
We need to support it and open up to the wonder, not just have the franchise pry open the doors in our hearts.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
I get it.
Well, there we go. Okay, well, that's our take on Star Trek Beyond, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek 09 and the JJ verse as a whole. And you know what? We want to know what you guys think.
Absolutely.
Like, are you open to Star Trek Beyond, or were you too burned by Into Darkness, or were you on board ever since Star Trek 09? Like, just let us know.
Were you introduced to Star Trek through Star Trek 09?
I know a few people who were introduced to Star Trek through Star Trek 09 and even didn't like it, but then went back and watched the original series and Next Gen and all that, and now they're super fans. They're uber fans.
That's awesome.
It's great. I love hearing that stuff, and that's the beauty of Star Trek, is that, like, if you don't like one thing, there's a whole lot of other Star Trek to pick from.
That's right.
And it's so great. And so, like, let us know about your Star Trek story. Let us know what you think of what we said. You can email us at contact@thenerdparty.com. You can also find me on Twitter @TheInsaneRobin. And please go to thenerdparty.com and check out all of our other shows. We have The Senate Floor with Matt Hansen, myself, as well as Lee Hutchison, and it's a general geek podcast. We do some movie reviews and top 5 lists. And we also have Aggressive Negotiations with John Mills and Matt Rushing, where it's a Star Wars podcast, and it's a great podcast. One of the best Star Wars podcasts out there, if I do say so myself. And we just hope that if you guys like this show, please tell your friends about it, and just take a couple minutes, not even a minute, and write us a review. And if you write us a 5-star, if you give us a 5-star review, we will mention you on the podcast.
I love you.
I know.